nobody can deny that Jon Jones is the greatest of all time. He comes in and wins this heavyweight division. It's hard to debate if he doesn't win the fight, but he wins this fight. There's no more talk. There's no more debate. It is what it is. It's like Brady when Brady left the Patriots and won, with the Buccaneers. It's just like I get it. You want to hate on Tom Brady, but you can't anymore. That's what's going to happen with Jon Jones. He beat.
But there's some fighters that the thing that propels them is this wildness, that they have this ability to in the moment take great risks and also be very creative in the moment and do wild things. And sometimes that is the difference between the very best and the elite. Jon Jones has had some fucking close fights, man. This Alexander Gustafsson fight, that shit went to the wire.
Well, the first one.
Yes, yeah. The second one he destroyed him. A guy who gets that good, he could be that good at fucking tennis. He could be that good at anything he wants. Jon Jones never lost. Yeah. You always have to remember that. They took that win away from him in the Matt Hamill fight, but he was putting a ferocious beatdown.
I believe that his fight IQ is as high as anyone we've seen in the octagon. His ability to just in fight is very good. Being a guy that spent 45 minutes in the cage with him. His ability to just in-fight makes him very difficult to... Jon Jones is one of the most talented people I've ever competed against. In the octagon, on the wrestling mat, on the football field. That's just the truth. But it's time for Jones now to stop limiting himself. It's time for him to start that next chapter of his story.
1 in a million athletes have been made to look foolish by this man. Jon Bones Jones might be the greatest mixed martial artist to ever do it. But don't take our word for it. Here's what several of his biggest rivals learned by fighting him. By the time Quinton Jackson reached his 205-pound title shot against Jon Jones, it was pretty clear that he wasn't as willing to dive headfirst into trash talk as you might expect. No, Rampage cut a pretty chilled-out figure when fight week came around, and as a former champ, he was fighting for something far greater than UFC gold. In his eyes, this put the pressure directly on Jon.
Him and Rashad got something in common. They both really cocky, you know what I'm saying? But I'm confident. I'm confident in myself. There's a difference between being cocky. I'm very confident, and the last time I was this confident, I knocked somebody out in the first round and got that belt. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna get it back.
Well, as it turned out, it mattered for little on fight night. Jones dominated and eventually finished Rampage in the championship rounds, totally outclassing him from start to finish. It's hard to humble a man who already came in pretty humble. But as you would expect, Jackson didn't have too much left in the way of bravado and defeat.
But he's the dirtiest fighter ever. He's the dirtiest fighter ever, and the guy's so smart. He does the most dirtiest things. I know they changed the gloves just because of Jon Jones. I don't know if you know, they changed the design of the gloves so you can't hold your hand like this.
Years later, he would deny that this loss was the hardest for him to stomach in his fighting career, simply because it came against a fighter as undeniably great as Jon Jones. In his mind, there is no shame in losing with that level of talent across from you. It's hard to know how much Chael Sonnen actually believed that he could beat Jon Jones, but he sure did do his utmost to get people to tune in.
Around that.
Joe, I don't promote fights, I pick fights. I'm better than Jon Jones, I'm better than Sean Combs, I am even better than John Holmes.
When the fight did finish, and it did not take long, Sonnen let the fans catch a glimpse of him at his most humble, a rare sight considering his commitment to his character. Jon well and truly beat the brakes off Chael from start to finish, seemingly making an attempt to beat Sonnen at his own game in the wrestling department. When Chael's very humble and gracious speech post-fight was finished, the bad guy we all know and love made an appearance once again at the press conference, this time to call on Anderson Silva and Jones to buck up and fight one another.
That's the only game I know. If you're gonna go fight a guy, go fight a guy. It drives me crazy. People are out talking about Anderson and Jon. These guys should be calling Dana right now, begging him to fight each other, and it's not going to go that way. You got these two guys, and they're great, but they're a couple of chickens. They should be calling each other out. They should grab the microphone and say, I want to fight that guy.
Alexander Gustafsson was not expected to be anything more than a footnote on Jon Jones' career when they signed to compete against one another at UFC 165. His size and length were pointed to as potential foils, and he himself seemed confident. But that's all it was, pre-fight chatter.
Everybody got weaknesses. You know, we're human beings. It's up to me to find out in the fight what he's weak at and what he's strong at. What he's done in the sport, it's something special. You know, it's a one of a kind, and I'm here to take it.
On that night, we all received a lesson in underestimating elite fighters. Gustafsson showed up in a way that most people never thought possible, giving Jones the fight of his life. He did so well, in fact, that many believed he won the fight outright. Gustafsson himself, to this day, maintains that while Jones is indeed as good as people say, that fight could have very easily gone his way with a different set of judges.
So much chaos. Could you even remember what had happened over the last 5 rounds?
I remember the fight, and I remember almost the whole fight, but it was just, Jon Jones is such a beast.
Jon Jones has had some rivals over the years, but no one, and I repeat, no one, has truly served as a greater foe to him than Daniel Cormier. From day one, it was clear that these polar opposites were going to get on each other's nerves. But ahead of both of their 205-pound title fights, Daniel Cormier really tried to get one point across. No matter how good Jon was, no matter how masterful he was in terms of talent, he wasn't going to be able to hurt him, to stop him from charging forward.
He's a good fighter, but I know the path to victory. And I also have been in there with him. There's nothing he can do to hurt me. I mean, he kicks and he punches and he elbows, but it's not like that's gonna get me out of there. You know, I know what's in me, and I have heart, and I love to fight. So my champion heart, spirit is gonna carry me.
Well, as it turned out, that wasn't exactly true. Cormier would later admit that he was wrong, and that while Jones wasn't the most powerful puncher in the world, his kicks were a total nightmare in there. When the dust eventually settled on their rivalry, DC never tried to shy away from the fact that Jon was the better fighter. But he still can't help but wonder whether Jon could have done it all, could have trained as hard, if he didn't allegedly dabble in PEDs.
So Jones he don't hit hard. He doesn't punch hard, but he kicks really hard. So like, he kicks like really, really hard. So like, we were in the octagon and we started to fight. And he punched me, I punched him. All of a sudden, both our nose bleed. And you know, like when your nose start bleeding, your eyes start welling up a little bit. Both of us bloody nose like 10 seconds into the fight. So he like standing back there and he just goes, pow, and I walk right into the knee. And I was like,
You've all been there. If you fought long enough, you've all been there.
Bro, I was like, shit.
Anthony Smith wasn't exactly the biggest name on Jon Jones' resume, but during his resurgence as a 205-pounder, he was certainly an interesting opponent on paper. Smith himself was quietly confident in the build-up to his first world title fight, promising the fans that he wouldn't have made it this far if he wasn't up to it.
But I think that, especially with the move to 205, and I can really grow the way that I'm supposed to in between fights and leading up during the camp, that, you know, I think that I have the answer. I really do. Or I wouldn't be here. You know, I'm not just coming in to hang out and fight. That's not it. And as you said, obviously Jon is a phenomenal athlete. He's a phenomenal fighter. And I know what's in front of me. You know?
Jones dominated Smith from start to finish, easily winning all 5 rounds. When the time came for Smith to reflect, he was adamant that he didn't give a good account of himself, and that he froze up, unable to pull the trigger under the bright lights.
There was moments where I would start to do it, and then, you know, it would just go away again. I don't know. Honestly, man, I just couldn't pull the trigger, and I can't figure out why. And again, I didn't fight. I didn't force Jon Jones to fight me. I let him nullify me. You know, I don't feel like I went out there and Jon Jones just walked all over me. I don't feel like it was like that. I guess I have to watch it again, but.
The unbeaten rising contender Dominick Reyes did indeed try to go toe-to-toe with Jon Jones at the pre-fight press conference. And while that didn't work out too well for him, the fight itself would be a different story entirely. Reyes fought the fight of his life in there with the divisional GOAT, pushing Jon as far as anyone has pushed him. In the end, a strong majority of people believed that he had done enough to get the win. And yet, when the time came to read the scorecards, Jones was walking away with the title. It was the last time Jones would fight for over 3 years. As you might expect, Reyes was beyond disappointment. And though he didn't know it yet, he would never again reach the heights that he did on this one night in Houston, Texas.